Good afternoon, good morning. Welcome everyone to Rootwork here on Black Liberation Media. My name is Thandi Shimaringa, and please, as usual, like, subscribe, and share before the video ends because you're going to get caught up and you're going to forget. So do it now. We need all of your support. Please like, subscribe, share, and subscribe on YouTube. But please subscribe on Patreon also, because that's how you can financially support the platform. When you subscribe to YouTube, you're going to get an indicator, of course, of our shows, when they're about to come on, the topics, etc. But, we had that little issue. I think we're coming out of it, but we had that little issue with YouTube. They'd want a trip. So when you want to financially support us, you can hit us up on our Cash Apps, on our Venmo, etc. But Patreon is the best way to do that now. So again, my name is Thandi Shimaringa, and this is Rootwork. And I know we're not at critical mass yet, but if you missed the beginning, you can always come back and press play. So I want to jump right in by saying that did a show last week, thought I was looking critically at this phenomenon of Kendrick Lamar's, I think the final chapter of the diss, the diss of Drake with They Not Like Us, and the video and the phenomenon that has happened, the Juneteenth concert, what happened on stage, what has happened since then, the behind the scenes of the video being filmed in Compton, the video actually dropping, and it's just going on and on and on from there. But there were some viewers who felt a particular kind of way, basically that not only did the show not go deep enough, not only was it not critical enough, that it actually may have been harmful, specifically to survivors of abuse and violence. And so I was talking this over with Rosa Clemente, and she's like, well, when's your show? I'll come on. I hadn't planned on doing a show with Rosa. I had simply planned on coming on to say that I heard your criticisms, and I've mentioned it to one or two people who I love and trust, and a couple of them were like, well, you can't please everyone. That's not the route that I want to take. The route that I want to take is not so much that I can't please everyone. If I'm actively harming someone, I want to address that. And I understand, and I believe that the people who were critical understood that it was not the intention, but it was the impact. And so, not quite sure how I can make up for that. In terms of, I chose my particular guest for a particular reason. I'm not going to be that critical of my guests, but again, I do want to let folks know that I hear what you're saying in terms of the harmfulness of the rhetoric, the harmfulness of not being critical, not holding people to account, not centering survivors of violence, of intimate partner violence, of domestic violence. But as I said, I mentioned it to Rosa Clemente, our hip hop journalist, our Green Party vice presidential candidate, along with Cynthia McKinney, our, as she calls herself, Black Puerto Rican PhD. And she was like, come on, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. I said, all right, Rosa, come on, let's go on the show. But again, it didn't start out that way. I just wanted to let you all know that I've heard what you said. I've taken it to heart, and I will recommit myself to being more intentional and more careful in terms of the rhetoric and the message I get across. But that's enough of me trying to run my mouth. Let me bring Rosa onto the stage now. And Let's see what Rosa got to say. How you doing today, sister?
Hey, sis, thanks for having me.
No, thank you for volunteering to come on board and,
Always.
and chop this up with me. So as you heard me say, it really wasn't my intention to have you as the guest. I'm so happy that you are here, but the intention was for me to try and do like a mea culpa again, to let folks know that I heard what they were saying in terms of some of the rhetoric not being as deep, as nuanced, and as critical in interrogating the harms to Black women, to Black children in this whole Kendrick Drake discussion, this whole Kendrick Drake debate. Because the question that was asked, so many of us are looking at the quote unquote the Black boy joy and the celebration of West Coast hip hop, of LA, of culture, etc., that took place. Was that taking place at the expense of Black women? And did it have to take place at the expense of Black women and children?
Well, I mean, what you say is correct. There are so many survivors in our own community. And, I think everybody heals differently. I
Mm-hmm.
think everyone gets to a space where there's things they're not willing to tolerate or tolerate. And, I have, when we look at hip hop just holistically,
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, Black women have always been used as some kind of tool in some people's arsenal, for sure. And I think with the celebration, the 50 years in hip hop, that people come into their own space around healing where they're not going to tolerate things, or they're going to have boundaries, or things are going to trigger them. And I totally I understand that. But I also understand, like, in this country alone, the way Black women, Latino women are being treated, the harm that is caused on a daily basis to us as a collective group of people who identify that way, or just in general, just the everyday patriarchy and the misogyny that we all are subjected to. So for me, listening to Kendrick, I asked my daughter, and I was like, okay, I see the things, when calls Drake a pedophile, and what does that mean? When there's been rumors of domestic violence from both of them, what does that mean? But in watching the video, seeing Whitney in it, his partner, and knowing things about her, really good things, you say, is she a woman that would feel is trapped? Well,
Mm-hmm.
no, she's not. From what everybody says about their relationship. So for me, I think anything we talk about in general, we're going to have an intersectional identity of us, many of us who've been sexually assaulted, and many of us who face, again, patriarchy and misogyny on a daily.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you were saying that yes, the discussions that we had offline, you were talking about the generational difference. Whereas young women today are like, we're not having this. We're not, we're not putting up with this madness, which is different from, not to say that women or a generation before them put up with it. I think the question becomes, why it's here. Why is it still here? Why is it still happening? What are we going to do about it? That's ultimately the question. What are we going to do about it? And you can't address a problem until you acknowledge a problem.
Right.
Again, so much was on display and has been on display during this time period. Is it at the expense of Black women? Is the question. And many folks felt undoubtedly yes. That, for example, just the inclusion, just the photograph of Dr. Dre triggers people. Dr. Dre is triggering for people
Yeah.
because of what happened to D, because of other D Barnes, what has happened to other women, the lack of acknowledgement from Dre around what he did, the lack of taking responsibility of what he did, uh, the 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 uses of what he did as punchlines in other uh, rap songs, no accountability whatsoever, but the quote unquote passing of a torch, the still or continued embrace of this man. Yeah, I get it. It's triggering because there are people out here who have made quote unquote contributions to Black folks' lives and struggles, and just seeing their photo is triggering for me. So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. What
Look, I
do you
think
think about it?
yeah, hip hop at this point is not the point that we're going to engage in and find empowerment for women at this point. Right? Like here we are 50 years and the misogyny and patriarchy and transphobic behavior of a lot of men, but also including women who are empowered in the culture just has not changed. And
Mm,
I think, people have to decide, is this a culture I want to be part of? Can I separate the art from the artist? We talk about Dre. Yes, absolutely. What he did to D Barnes. We could go down the list now. So for me, I think if people want to be in the culture, just know that unfortunately the culture still supports men when they do this, right? Like Me Too is the biggest intervention we've had, particularly as Black women, particularly as survivors, I would say since the mid 80s, the post Anita Hill.
mm,
The new generation coming through is also a Black Lives Matter generation. So
mhm,
they're not going to put up with it. They're going to say, this is triggering. They're going to say, I can't separate the art from the artist. And I
mm,
get that, and historically look at someone like Miles Davis, right? People, Miles Davis, jazz, genius, when people say in streets, museums, all that, he was brutal to Cicely Tyson. Like she talked about that, and just keep going down the list of men, you
yeah,
know. So I think that always acknowledging and finding a home as a survivor, particularly in Me Too, because Tarana has specifically made sure that we're not talking about the predators and the criminal justice system. That's going to do what it does. We're talking about the survivors. And then, of course, Drew Dixon, who came out in her documentary On the Record.
mm,
So what I've been seeing more and more from the women in my generation who've kind of like been like, love you, hip hop. There's some things that are good that are going to be in it, but I'm going the other way because we've been in this too deep, and it's been harmful. But I want to say this: like, I had an experience in March in hip hop where it was women that literally tried to destroy me.
mm.
Um,
March of this year.
yeah.
Mm,
There was an event at Lincoln Center.
mhm,
And first, let me say to survivors and everybody listening that has been sexually assaulted. I'm not comparing what happened to me. I'm trying to give the critique on women, how we're treated, but I'm also very aware now that women in hip hop who have some sort of visibility, celebrity, they can't, you know, they also have been very patriarchal, and
mm,
they like being one of the few women at that level
mm,
left when we deal with the politics and the politics, the fifth element of hip hop. So anyway,
right.
I was at an event in Lincoln Center. It was put on by the Hip Hop Education Center. Their executive director is Martha Diaz, and I ended up being on a panel. It was kind of late. It was an all day thing, so I ended up being on a panel with Erica Ford, who, if people don't know who she is, please, like the work she has done around gun violence and in just one Queens community is admirable, to say the least. And I've always considered her like a big sis. And then there were two other women. Their names already slipping me because I've been trying to block that out. But it was a sister who was a DJ, then some like random white girl, and then the moderator. You know,
Erica Ford. Is this December 12th, Erica Ford?
yeah, Erica Ford, that used to be in December 12th. Yeah, based in Queens, New York. So, the panel was called the Disruptors, right? So I was like, okay. So we're beginning to get questions and things like that. And then I'm asked a question and I'm like, listen, until hip hop can admit fully that Africa Bambaataa is a pedophile and might go on trial one time. Russell Simmons, Dr. Dre. I mean, like I went down the list and I said, and Puff Daddy. This was before everything was coming out, right? But being engaged in the culture for so long in New York, it's not something that we didn't hear. His propensity for violence in general. So then I'm talking and I start getting booed from the crowd in the audience. So I'm like, all right. So I'm like, I'm not leaving. I want to keep talking. So the next question is asked, right? And the DJ, who hopefully I'll remember, but people could Google the event, then interrupts and is like, listen, all I know is like maybe he did it, maybe he didn't. I don't know. It's not like he paid me $1 million when I DJ'd his parties. And like with a laugh. So I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm like, that's not funny. There's survivors all over here. Like, that's not cute. So then I start speaking and she starts making fun of me, like miming and like everything I'm doing. And I turn around again. I'm like, listen, I'm not going to stay here and be disrespected. And then someone in the audience said, we're here to talk about hip hop. We're not here to talk about domestic violence. That's a woman's issue.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, I'm out. And honestly, as long as you know me, sis, I don't walk off a stage.
Right.
Like, oh, hell no. When I addressed it after, because then what happened is certain people still affiliated with Zulu Nation and Africa Bambaataa started doxing me. They're like calling me, DMing me. They're putting out videos and audio saying they're going to sue me for defamation, that Puffy and Bambaataa are the kings of hip. Like, it was insane. So then I'm like, well, let me talk to my girl who brought me here, like my friend. And her response devastated me. Like, for a week. I could not stop crying. I was like angry. I was so upset. I called her. Then there's all these emails going back and forth. And to this day, this woman that so many people have supported, but that some people have been like, yeah, one day you're going to see something. And it was like, okay, all right, here we are. Here we are as women who are the backbone of the culture. Here we are as women who every day have to negotiate how we engage in the culture. And then, for me, in my personal all feelings. So I think if people, particularly women, are looking for empowerment in hip hop, we're never going to find it.
Well, no, we're definitely not going to find empowerment. But I think, well, let me give a disclaimer. I am not a woman in hip hop. I stopped listening to hip hop. I mean, I don't consider myself a hip hop head. Stopped listening to hip hop years ago because I got tired of being called a bitch and a hoe. Drove me to smooth jazz. I could still hear instrumentals of my favorite songs. That's how far away I went. So it's not the same to me. It's not the same for me, but I hear what people are saying. I don't think it's looking for empowerment in hip hop. It's looking for assistance, holding people accountable, confronting people about what they're doing. That whole attitude of, we're here to discuss hip hop, not domestic violence. Excuse me, the personal is political.
Right.
If you're talking about a movement that is quote unquote revolutionary, or a movement that comes from and reflects our culture, hello, we got a problem. How do we get to liberation with this baggage around our necks? Do we think we're going to get to liberation with this baggage? Is liberation the goal of simply replacing one oppressor for another oppressor? Another oppressor. Is that why we don't want to talk about hip hop and male violence against women? So these are questions that need to be asked, that need to be raised, excuse me, whether we get to the answer or not. And again, I'm trying to address my part of not being harmful by allowing language or discussions to take place that shirk that confrontation, and that confronting. So
Yeah, but I do
that's
think we
my
do
question.
that. I know that we do that. Like,
Absolutely, we do that.
we do that, and there are people, so many other women that do that on on a daily basis.
Mhm.
I agree with you. If people felt harmed or triggered, well, now you're doing the follow up, and
Mhm.
maybe people are already going to hit me and be like, well, I didn't like your answer, or you weren't as hard as I wanted you to be. And I get that too. You know, so for me, look, I've never listened to Drake. So I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know, and I understand why a newer generation loves Kendrick Lamar. That
Mhm.
he's their generation.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean we don't critique him or analyze him at all.
Mhm.
Like, right, he did the Juneteenth show, and I was like, well, that's weird, 30 minutes of the same thing, but okay. But then the hordes of men, right? Like, just all dudes. And then you're looking at some of these dudes and you're like, oh, you're the rapper that is violent. You're the rap, like, and I'm wondering if he even gets it. I'm not saying like he shouldn't. I'm just like, does he understand when he brings out Dre what that could mean? But I think him coming from a new generation, and that new generation around him, his peers, I don't really think they know the story. I just don't, because they live in a world where they can skip knowing things. When you talk to a younger generation and you go, are you part of hip hop culture? They're like, what? Because hip hop culture to them is not really, it doesn't exist.
Say what?
No, but that's what they say. It doesn't exist, and that's the intergenerational thing that we know more of, Tommy. That's what I'm saying. It does for them. Younger people are not just engaging in hip hop culture. Plus, a younger generation of women MCs are out there now of that generation who are completely sexually free,
Mm-hmm.
right? And also, these same women also talk about how they've been abused in their lives, and that for them they find empowerment in who they are now as these MCs like Ice Spice, and I'm like, who is that? And I got to ask my daughter, and I'm like, okay, there's a lot of women out here. People are going to say, well, they're just sexual and all they do is talk about that. I'm like, yeah, and all men in most hip hop songs, all they do is talk about sex too.
Mm-hmm.
I think what the younger generation of women in that, I mean, the younger women in that generation, they, I think, are more empowered in us than we were when we were coming up, because we're in a Me Too post world. And they're like, hell no. But they're also like, look, I think what Megan Thee Stallion did maybe also empowered a new generation of women. When Tory Lanez shoots her in the foot, then everybody around her and him were like, don't talk to the cops, don't say anything. And she didn't. And then she went and filed a report, and she took it all the way to trial. Seeing Megan Thee Stallion go through that for younger women, I think was incredibly, incredibly important. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and I think it was incredibly important that the women in our generation also showed her love in an open letter. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we would have had that before. Maybe because of social media, we can address it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that we are not still living in a hyper violent, hyper patriarchal, misogynistic society. And if that's where hip hop wants to stay, there's nothing else that we can do about it except disengage from it. And I'm with you. I am disengaged. I haven't really talked about hip hop this last year. I hardly did anything because I'm like, I'm done. Leave that to somebody else. Like, we're done. We're over 50 women who've been dealing with this for 30 years. We're done. We're tired, and we're going that way.
Yeah.
So it's up to people how they're going to engage the art from the artist. But the fact that you're addressing it now, I think that is accountability. And honestly, as much as people talk about accountability, a lot of people still don't do the right thing, which is being self-critical.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah, they absolutely don't do that.
Yeah.
Let me real quick. I just wanted to go back for a second. Well, hold on one second. When we were talking about the generation today, and the commenter said that they don't care. You were saying that you really don't believe that they know, and that is a valid point. I admit I'm a little bit more pessimistic. I'm kind of thinking they don't care.
No, like, having a 20-year-old, a 20-year-old Black Puerto Rican woman, my daughter, it's not that they don't care. It's that for real, a lot of them are so stuck in a certain algorithm, they don't know. So if we're going to have a conversation about how much disinformation there is in this country, why would we think that 18 to 25, maybe 30, 28-year-olds know the things that we know? They don't know that. They're not engaged in the culture. They're not, it's not that they don't care. And it's that they're misinformed. So if we're going to critique the whole misinformation media landscape, why would we think our young people would escape that? And also, like, we have to give young people time. Like, everyone knows, every scientific study says until you're 25, your brain is not fully developed. We got to not just be like, y'all don't care. They care. They care about a lot of important things. Climate catastrophe, they care. Who's moving us forward in that work? Engaging as women and saying, I am not willing to put up with this. That was my mother's generation. We're not doing that. That's empowerment that we never had. So I'm always get really like, stop saying young people don't care. Like, come on, y'all. That's not true. Now, when you get a little older, you get the information, then maybe you don't care. But I'm not gonna say that about a younger generation. Also, like, they're seeing all the craziness in this country with Trump. Of course they care. Maybe they're also like, whatever, I just want to work and go to school. That's all I'm saying. Like, I as someone who came up in the movement and wasn't born into it, it took me till at least I was like 28 or 30 to feel like, okay, like, I know a lot. I'm always gonna learn. They're not looking for the violent men in hip hop because they're not engaged in it, but they're also seeing finally the Russos and the Puff Daddies getting, those two are not gonna live the rest of their lives happy. We all know. And look at Puff Daddy right now, fleeing to Germany. More sex trafficking accounts will be against him. That they're seeing that, and they're responding to it because they don't have the same relationship. They don't have to like hold their tongue or whatever. They're seeing these sexual assaulters like still living their lives in a weird way, still living their lives without one form of accountability, and not, as I think you would agree, and not through the criminal justice system per se.
I was going to say also, this is the generation that has seen R. Kelly go to prison, as well as that documentary that Dream helped
Yeah,
put together,
surviving.
Surviving Killing. But in terms of accountability, though, the other thing that I wanted to address, and I think I mentioned it briefly, but that the criticism, part of one of many criticisms of last week's show, is that when it comes to accountability, as an example, we're me sitting up here talking about what does the community need in order for, and when I say community, I'm talking about, like, quote unquote, the black nation, the black community, black people. What do we need in order for these people to be held accountable or to atone? And one of the commenters was like, what about us survivors? What do we, nobody's asking what we need as survivors. Now, I put my email address on the YouTube comments, hoping that they would contact me so we could talk about it today on this show. I never heard back from them. Again, that's me saying I wanted to come here and do a mea culpa and address last week, but you, my sister, graciously agreed to be on here with me. So instead of leading with survivors, I was leading with the overall general, because I think that that's important. I think that we as a people, as a community, whether we engage with hip hop or not, I think that we have the right to say, you know what, that's funky, that's not cool. We need to do better. And that's all that I try to do. That's all I'm trying to do.
That's what we're trying to do, and people know your heart and your work.
I'm not, it's not so much that I'm taking this personal. I don't want it to seem like that.
No, I don't. I know you're not taking personally,
Mhm,
but
mhm,
it's also like, what more are you supposed to do? You're doing it right now. See, that's the whole point. Folks like us are going to say, damn, okay, I got to do better. I'm saying, like, what else can you do? It'd be different if you were here now. I mean, like, F it, and they emailed me and didn't want to come on. I mean, the platform is here. You reached out. There's only so much more that you can do. But
mhm,
also, I do again feel that folks are, they do have somewhere to go now, with again what Toronto has done with Me Too. And if
mhm,
you go to Me Too, they have an entire, almost not just a curriculum, but it includes wellness. It includes how you can find a psychologist, a therapist. The entire work of Me Too is about survivors. So for me, when I went on it, I downloaded things, and there were certain things that I still hadn't dealt with, that just by using the tools and then finding the right therapy that can help me with, like all of us, so many of us have been sexually assaulted. This is decades of work, probably for the rest of my life. But I think you're doing it right now. What else are you supposed to be doing?
mm.
We're hard on ourselves, and I understand.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. Yeah, I know what I think I know what what some people wanted to see from me. That's what I think. But at any rate, like you said, I'm here now. I'm attempting to give voice. And the more I think about it, let me just say this, because this is Black Liberation Media, and we're talking about getting it out, right? Let's get it out. I don't think I was as concerned with survivors. I don't think I am concerned. My concern for survivors takes shape in that I don't want there to be perpetrators.
Right.
My
Absolutely.
concern with survivors is that motherfuckers need to stop doing this shit. How about that? That's how my concern with survivors shows itself.
Yep.
My concern with survivors is not necessarily wellness or I'm not sure, healing looks different for different people. I'm like, how do we get menses, because it is primarily menses, how do we get them to look at their behavior towards black women and not do this. That is my concern. That's how I show my concern for survivors. I don't want there to be any more quote unquote survivors. I don't want there to be any more victims. I don't want there to be any more perpetrators.
Right. Well, when you say that, I'm not sure if people are aware of this, but the numbers of men who rape, right? It's a low number.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the number of men who rape or sexually assault women, violent towards women, they say is about 11% of the men in this country. And people are like, that doesn't
That,
make sense. No, but
it's
this
too, it's too many. I don't.
no,
Whatever the number is
that's
too
what I'm
many.
trying to no, this is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Once a perpetrator does it the first time, until they're stopped, they're going to continue to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's so then we see the R. Kelly. He wasn't stopped, he continued to do it. Russell, he wasn't stopped, he continued to do it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Diddy, he doesn't stop, he doesn't continue to do it. College campus, the one, the two, the three frat boys, they don't stop because they continue to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
if the perpetrator's not stopped, they're going to continue to do it until they are stopped.
Right.
Right? And that's the challenge for men, right? But I'm also at a point where I'm like, I'm not dealing with men in my generation that are still acting like they're 25. Like, we're done with y'all. Grow the F up already. And within what the now with the men, like, when even the Puff Daddy thing came out, men were like, oh, I don't know, maybe. Like, stop it. Y'all ridiculous at this point, and you're causing harm as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a survivor, as many of us, I didn't think of myself as a survivor until Me Too. I never
Mm-hmm.
used that word because for me, it was like, it only happened a couple times. I know has happened to more and more violence to other sisters. I'm not a victim. We're
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't even engage in this conversation because I'm not as traumatized as so many other sisters. I didn't think of myself as a survivor, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't think I had to keep doing the work around that. But when Me Too happened, I literally was with Tirana that day where Me Too went way up. We were at the Women's March in Detroit, Michigan. I just came out from Puerto Rico in 2017. So here we are 7 years later. I've had to do more work around my trauma with sexual assault that didn't even know I had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's been difficult, and it was more difficult. It's way better now, but yeah, I had never even seen myself as a survivor, honestly. And I really grew up my entire life thinking I did it to myself or I did something wrong. I'm from a Latina community. I'm not saying that we don't talk about this. All I'm saying is that we're not supposed to talk about it, or the family gets upset. I also was raised in the Catholic Church, so I did for part of my life think that everything I did was a sin, that it was my fault. That it
Yeah.
was my fault. Why was I there? Why did I go home with that? Did I wear something too tight? Like I said, 2017, I've been doing this work for almost 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a hard journey,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not easy. It's just not easy.
No, it's not. I just want to address a comment real quick. We had someone in the chat last week who was bringing up several key points, and their handle was Ho. They Ho was not banned from me by me. Ho and we don't know if I don't know what Ho's pronouns were. They probably just got disgusted and don't want to watch anymore. I don't know, but they were not banned by me. I know I did ban a FBA ADOS person and will continue to do so, but I did not ban Ho. So yeah, I'm committed to having conversations that will stop predators. That's the justice and healing I want for survivors. That there be no more survivors. That there be no more incidents that they have to overcome, survive from. It needs to stop.
I think we were making progress, and now we're in a country that not only took away our reproductive rights. Can you
Mm.
imagine what happens if Trump is the president to women?
Again, yeah.
Right? It's not just even about over it. A big part, obviously, autonomy over your own body, but all this right Christian 2025 thing. When you read of how they want to quote deal with gender, it's like, oh, this actually might be the handmaid's tale coming through in a real way through policy.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not like this country's ever loved Black women, even though Black women saved this country every single.
Time and time again. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if this dude gets in, the things that are going to be tolerated in this country, because sexual assault and the numbers have not changed. It's
Mm-hmm.
one in three women. It's still about 46% of women by the time they turn 18 have already been sexual assaulted, molested, or any language that talks about sexual assault, right? So it's like this country ain't getting better around it. I think our communities are getting better because I think that as a collective community, we are analyzing and we're like, what's going on? We need to do better. I don't ever want a woman to go through that ever in my life. But when they do, if it happens, we want them to get a space where they can begin their journey. But let me say this, not everybody heals. Like you said, healing is a personal thing, but also not everybody heals. And
Mm-hmm.
that to me is the saddest part for me, that there's always going to be women who didn't get the tools that they needed to heal and will never be fully who they are. I think once someone is sexually assaulted or violently assaulted, it literally goes into your DNA and it manifests in a lot of ways, as you know, like stress, high blood pressure, migraines, agoraphobia. Like, you could go down the list,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I think the best thing we can do is folks like us don't engage with people like that anymore, and help survivors if they want us to be their voice, or if they allow us to help them be a voice for them.
Well, yeah. I come into this from radio, so I've never thought of myself as, no disrespect to Mumia. I've never thought of myself as being a voice for the voiceless. I'm like a megaphone. Everyone has a voice. I'm here to help you, uh,
Hmm.
help amplify your voice. So, and part of the criticism last week was that, what are y'all talking about? How come survivors are not centered? So, like I said, I hear that, but again, my way of assisting survivors is, y'all got to stop doing that shit. You perpetrators need to stop doing that shit. that's
Yeah,
where I'm at. And I guess one of the ways that we do that is by helping this helping to amplify the stories, tell the stories and amplify the stories so that the younger generation will have the information, will know what we know. So
yes,
that
and what I do think about the younger generation, if it happens to them, they're not going to be silent.
mm-hmm,
Because they didn't grow up like that. They didn't grow up where it's like, don't talk about that ever. Don't ever say anything again. when
mm-hmm,
when that happens to us, and we might tell our parents or the people, and they're just like, it's fine, like, we're gonna help you, don't ever talk about it again. This newer generation is like, so I was at the club and this motherfucker tried to feel me up. Here's his name,
here's his
TikTok.
picture. Yeah.
I'm at Coachella, this person tried to like hug me and kiss me without my consent. This is his name. Like, I'm like, that for me, with the younger generation, they know now, when you tell your truth, no one can stop you. right? Now,
Mm,
it doesn't mean that you don't have to go through a process and you're not a survivor. What
mm,
it's saying is that they don't feel they have to be silent about it anymore. And to me, incremental progress is not enough, but
yeah.
I am happy to know that the younger generation women, unlike me and a lot of the women I know, are not blaming themselves for what somebody does to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be silent. They're not going to be shamed. A lot of them also are like, I don't know if I want to involve the criminal justice system. To me, that's a very personal choice. But actually, sometimes it's not a choice, right? Like if a predator gets arrested and the woman there or the trans person is like, I don't. I don't want to go to trial. I'm an abolitionist. They're like, it doesn't matter. The state now does it, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also this younger generation that has political awareness, are aware that they can do that, and not be silenced and not be shamed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the hard part too, like the abolition piece. Like, this is where I'm contradictory, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy R. Kelly's behind the walls forever because he's a predator, and I would
Mm-hmm.
be happy if it Bambaataa and Russell and did because they don't deserve freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a complete contradiction. I want to be an abolitionist 100%. I don't want to, but f that. They're dangerous people.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be away, whatever that looks like, bye. But also, the people around them, where's their accountability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we look at all these stories, like even in the R. Kelly piece, you then have the people around him, the men being like, yeah, we knew it was happening, but we didn't know what to do. No, because you wanted money. And now you're on a documentary 20 years later crying about it. What about all those people that allow it to happen? How
Yeah.
grown men knowing a 14-year-old is being raped right next to you and you do nothing? To me, you're just the same.
Oh, you're just as slimy. Absolutely.
Right. And
Absolutely. Just as slimy.
enrages me the most. Nobody gets away with this for so long without people letting it go this way.
Exactly.
It's disgusting.
People close to the perpetrator a lot providing cover. Absolutely.
And
When
look,
I,
Thandi, too, let me before we go, look at it gets passed down in this way, right? Now Puffy's sons, things are coming out about them,
mm-hmm.
right? That two of his sons were doing the same thing without him being around
Mm-hmm.
because they were taught that by their own dad.
Mm-hmm.
Their own dad took them into rooms and would like watch this,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now here are your sons in their mid-20s whose lives may you have ruined because it's not that I'm like they didn't do it. What I'm saying is who taught them that they could also get away. That to me is even more atrocious. Like you
Mm-hmm.
taught your sons, you basically groomed your own sons to be part of your network of destroying
Predators. Yeah.
women, assaulting them, being violent, threatening them, threatening their families. That's a damn shame. But your sons may be going down too, and look at what you did to these
Mm-hmm.
young men.
Mm-hmm. I was shaking my head earlier because, well, I can't tell you that you're not being contradictory. Again, I try to think of it in terms of, as a community, how do we see this? What are we doing? What are we going to do about it? And I went through a situation earlier this year where I had to get a restraining order on someone. So and I agonized over it.
Mm-hmm.
Went to bed one night and woke up the next morning. Oh hell, motherfucking yeah! Get this motherfucker up out of here. I'm doing a lot of cussing. Anyway, the point being is, it brought more clarity for me. My issue is mass incarceration. My issue is cops and prisons and courts as a tool to address, or as Angela Davis says, to disappear social problems, black people being the social problem. There are some people, some individuals who need to be restrained, either because they refuse to restrain themselves or they just cannot restrain themselves. Therefore, they need to be restrained. So the issue for me is mass incarceration. I know, I forgot the sister name, Miriam Makaba. When she talks about abolition, she's like, I'm not for strengthening at all a system meant to destroy me. Until we come up with our own systems, okay, let that one go. Let that, put him in, put him up under the jail. Okay, let that one go. Okay, that one's been there long enough. Let them come out. But some folks gotta go. They
I
have, they got to get away from. So I wouldn't call that a.
fiction, yeah.
I wouldn't do it, but I'm not gonna tell you how to live your life.
No,
And I,
I didn't. I actually didn't even think about it that way, honestly. I just was like, "Oh God, am I playing part into this?" But even when I thought I was like, "I really don't." Bye forever. Bye bye.
all right, goodbye, bye bye.
Bye.
You don't know how to act around people. Goodbye. And yeah, part of the problem last week was you people in the chat distracting me. If you notice, I ain't really dealt with y'all today on this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all your fault. It's your fault. No, I'm just playing. But I'm not gonna. Well, we haven't even been on a whole hour yet. I wanted to do, like I said, a little. I wanted to do something, and I appreciate you coming on here, sis. All I can do is redouble my efforts, recommit myself to being more critical and raising questions, and not causing harm to people who have already been harmed. Perpetrators be damned. You gonna get harmed. That's the whole point. You gonna get harmed. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to make an attempt to do, and I appreciate you for coming on with me. And again, to me, it's not really the issue of sisters looking for empowerment within hip hop. You have been one of, if not the most vocal voice around what's been taking place in hip hop for so long. And I know it's ugly, lonely work. So I want to let you know how much I appreciate and love you for the work that you have been doing for so long, within hip hop and outside of hip hop. But no, just yeah.
Yeah, I thank you. I love you. Have so much respect for you, and I appreciate it. Um, yeah, I believe that we're all like I believe our crew of folks we're doing better, like in terms of not just talking about it, like making sure again that we center survivors. And I think everybody is different in how they're going to find empowerment, how they're going to begin to heal if they heal fully. So on another note, I just wanted to just say something because I'm about to do this Instagram live, which I'm Instagramming live our interview right now. Oh, look, no, there were a lot of people on. There's a lot of people on. Yay. Okay. Everybody, make sure you subscribe to Root Work right now. So today is 16 years since me and Cynthia McKinney got the nomination in Chicago. So it's
Mm-hmm.
our anniversary. So in about an
Green Party nomination for
Green Party
president, vice president
nomination
of the U.S. Uh
of
huh.
the United States, yeah, in Chicago, Illinois. So in about an hour, I'm gonna stream my acceptance speech when I got the nomination, because all the stuff happening with electoral politics and kind of the madness and the shaming that's happening to people who may not want to vote, and they're making that choice to people who are going to vote in a way, and people who are going to vote third parties. And one of my platforms was really ending violence against Black and Latino women, right, 16 years ago. So I look at it now and I'm like, from where we were at 2008 to now, I hope it's different. I think it is different, but like you said, if someone feels, you or didn't take accountability, well, you just did now with doing the show. And I'm sure there's going to be people who are going to be like, nah, we still don't like what you had to say. is, that's a great thing about social media. Then I'm like, go through you, girl. Then, like, I get it, but
Mhm.
I've done everything I think I could do. But you also have a voice. Like you said, no one's voiceless. I agree with that. Everybody has a voice.
Everybody has a voice, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And also on that, real quick, one of my spiritual mentors, I call her my spiritual mother, Charlotta Bass. She ran for vice president of the U.S., or she was on the vice presidential ticket of the Progressive Party in the early 19 in the 1950s. So we've had we've got Melina running now, we've got Charlotta Bass, we had what's her name,
Claudia
what's
de
her
la Cruz with
Claudia Dela Cruz, but also Shirley Chisholm
right.
making her run. Charlotta Bass said, "We win when we raise the issues. We win by raising the issues." So the platforms and the issues that you all and others raise is, I think, well, I can't say it's the most important. I live in California. We can do whatever the hell we want to do
Right.
because the state is gonna go blue. I can write myself in and vote for myself, and I would not be dishonoring my ancestors who died for the right to vote. But other people have hard choices to make, and so I just want to give voice to that, or amplify that y'all have been doing. I appreciate y'all doing that work. Raising the issues is important, not so much necessarily actually winning, actually capturing the presidency. For some people, it is a matter of life and death. For some folks, it's not, but it's 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 an ongoing struggle, and this is one of the places that we try to tackle those issues, try to get a handle and think things through in the limited amount of time that we have. So, you said, when are you going live, sis?
Probably in an hour or so.
Mhm.
I'll just be streaming that. And I'm happy. I've told both. I had, I knew Melina had confided in me, and she asked me, and I said, "Go." And she's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yes, that's how it happened for me." I said, "But we didn't have social media in 2008, right?" For me, that's a good thing. I don't think I could survive the grossness happening, because even me talking about third parties, the crap shit I'm getting from people and their DMs telling me I'm the reason Biden's gonna lose. I'm like, Biden is the reason he's gonna lose. Stop that. Like, people, right? Like the fear mongering around third parties. This is also, again, a generational thing. Not that Dr. West is a young person, or not that, but the generation right now, that's what they're talking about. They're like, we're done. Give me an alternative. And to see Claudia and Karina running on the party Socialism and Liberation, see Dr. West and Melina, I was like, I think, I could say I had a little something to do with that. And
Absolutely.
I am completely like, yes, like, I wish I could vote for all of y'all, but the intervention that is being made right now, though, for me, my electoral politics, I was like, I'm very, very happy that that's happening. And I encourage everybody listening, like, don't, in Russia, people, everybody votes because they're made to vote.
Mm-hmm.
So, out of fear. We're supposed to live in a country where we can vote and not be fearful. But that's what's happening, especially with these Democrats, the fear mongering, the lesser two evils argument, shaming people. Like, look at yourselves, look what y'all done. Do not blame young people if they're like, you know what, we good. Whatever's gonna happen with them, gonna happen. We're gonna do this. We can have, we can have a whole nother discussion on that. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's right, and I'm glad you said that, because it's important to see, like, raising our issues, because apparently, we already know how that dude's gonna go, and unfortunately, the Democratic Party didn't even listen to their own young people and other people in the Democratic Party, and that's why they're in the position. So at the end of the day, we got to just prepare. Always get ready, because we don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
All right. Well, speaking of prepare, I'm going to let you go prepare for your live. Thank you again so much for coming on board today. It was almost kind of last minute. I appreciate you so much, sis.
I
Really,
appreciate you.
really do. And I appreciate you all in the chat. You weren't as distracting as you were last week. I'm still going to blame you partly for this. But I do appreciate y'all. Please, if you have not already liked, subscribed, and shared the link for this video, please do so now. Like, share, and subscribe. Be on the lookout for more content. Please continue to support us here on YouTube and on Patreon. Support all the shows. Really appreciate you. All right, sis. So, and if just in case people don't know how to find you on social media, for that one or two per people, how do they find you on social media, sis?
Yeah, Bess's Instagram is Black Puerto Rican PhD. Then on Facebook is Rosa Clemente. And then, I don't have a problem giving out my email because it's public. It's Clemente Rosa at Gmail. But definitely on Instagram, drop me some DMs for the folks that are watching on your end and that gave comments. But again, I hope that everybody continues to support your work. And thank you for always supporting me and having my back. I love you too.
Okay. And then, we don't mind giving out already public information because we know how to block. We know how to block and ban, so it's all good when people
Exactly.
Trigger finger.
Finger.
Okay.
All right, sis. Thank you.
All right, sis. I'll holler at you later. Thank you again.
Okay, for sure. Peace.
Okay, peace. And again, to you all in the chat, or if you're not in the chat, you just watching, thank you for hanging with me. Thank you for letting me invade your time and try and work this out in my own mind to put forth to you all where I was coming from, where I may have fallen short of. Allow me to recommit myself again. And I'm going to stress this again. Like, share, subscribe. Subscribe to Root Work on YouTube by itself. Subscribe to the Black Liberation Media platform. Like the video, share the video. It ain't like I'm asking y'all for money. I mean, that is my Cash App right there at Root Worker, ROOTWRKR. But it ain't like I'm asking y'all to hook a sister up with dollars. It ain't going to cost you nothing to share the link. Share the link, like, subscribe, share. Then after you do all of that, if you want to drop some coins on a sister, don't worry, I'll take it. I'm not going to turn it away. I will take it. It's all good. All right, y'all. Even though Mr. Arthritis is not knocking on the door, I'm not going to be up here and run my mouth for 3 hours. I'm going to get out of here. Y'all take care. All right. Stay safe. Peace.